Shabbat Shalom, everybody. What I'm asking you to do tonight, at least if you're in a romantic relationship, is to take a look backwards, or if you're single, take a look at yourself now. When we're out looking for a potential partner, there are a number of ways we can approach it. We can be casual and relaxed about it and not really look for something big and important. We can simply be dating and not necessarily looking for a soulmate. Although I heard from my son that the term dating has changed. When you're dating now, you're in a committed relationship. So everybody's like, oh. So we can simply be dating in the old sense of the word and not necessarily looking for a soulmate, a long-term relationship, or a marriage partner. And of course, that's perfectly fine. It can even be a lot of fun. It has the advantage of giving you lots of new experiences. It has the advantage of relative freedom. It also has its downside when there's no commitment. You occasionally get left behind by someone you like. When there's freedom to leave, there's also freedom to be left. And while these kinds of surface types of relationships can be genuinely caring, they also can lack depth. And so it is with our experience with God. If we take it lightly, we can only go so far. Another kind of romance seeks a long-term relationship, seeks love, seeks marriage, seeks a soulmate. And this kind of relationship has its advantages as well. It's great for someone who likes a degree of stability and dependability. There's a level of nuance and depth to these relationships. And while even long-term relationships are always changing, there is something solid about them at the core. And this can bring great joy and great comfort. And this is also true of our relationship with God. If we take it seriously, it can be a profound experience. Our romantic relationships can offer us insight into our relationship with God. The reality is that when it comes to God, many of us are lightweights. My apologies. Well, not really. We don't have much experience with God, and we're still playing the field. We're not looking for a serious commitment. So when we encounter God, whether it be during prayer or walking through a forest, the results are predictable. We say to ourselves, that's a little bit too much for me, or we say, that's not what I'm looking for. Or we say, wait a second, that demands a lot on my end. We run away from this potentially profound encounter. We simply say, no, thank you. I'm looking for something a little bit easier. And if there's one truth in the world, it's that a relationship with God, like a marriage, is not easy at times. It's a powerful experience that can be a guidepost in your life, but it's not easy. So how do we move from light romance to serious romance? How does this move from light romance to serious romance? What does it teach us about spiritual love as well? Dr. Richard Alpert, who was a psychiatry professor at Harvard, says that when we fall in love with someone else, what we're doing is opening up the love inside of us. We already have it. When we open up that place, we feel different. The entire world feels different around us. Love's an opening. It's not something we can do by ourselves. It's something that we do together with someone else. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not going to go deeply into that process. What I am is a rabbi. And I can speak to how that opening in our heart that's already there, happens also with spiritual love, with a love of God. How we can open up something that's already inside us, how can we do this and feel this difference? The world feels different. We feel how it's a two-way street and it involves us and it involves God. And we can achieve it through a number of things, mainly spiritual practices and sometimes ones that are surprisingly simple. We can open up that place of love and feel a different kind of connection, a connection of trust, a connection of faith, and a connection of love. So what generates this opening, according to the rabbis? One answer is very simple: humility. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, you can tell what I'm studying, because I talked about Shneur Zalman of Liadi and the Baal Shem Tov last week, and I'm going to talk about their teachings this week. He offers a solution to this tendency that we have to run away from the divine. He says that the key to opening God is humility. He says the key to loving God is humility. We all have a false perception that we're separate from the divine. We all exhibit the chutzpah, that's Yiddish for hubris, to think that we're individual entities separate from God's presence, and in maintaining this false perception that we're independent from God, we create that reality. We truly create a distance, a lack of intimacy, a lack of love between us and the divine. As I said, according to Rabbi Zalman, this is a false perception. And it's possible to receive another reality where, according to a text called the Zohar, quote, in God's presence, everything is considered zero. The reality that God, according to Rabbi Zalman, quote, sustains all things, bringing them into existence constantly, recreating the world in every moment. That's a gorgeous idea. You know, we think of the creation of the world traditionally associated with Rosh Hashanah, but this possibility that in every moment the world is being created. And with that realization, how can we not feel humble? God is one, God is everything, end of story. The cultivation of humility is also a central teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. He teaches in his collection of moral aphorisms, Sivat HaRivash, quote, the sole sign for the true service of the Creator is that you see yourself as lightly esteemed in your own eyes. For then you're on a spiritual level and thus a servant unto God. Blessed be God. It's the idea, we're hesitant to do this in our culture, to think of ourselves as simple servants, to think of us as someone who, maybe a master's too strong, but to see us as not the whole deal. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov is really asking us. He says that kind of perception is better than, quote, seeing yourself as honored in your own eyes, because that lacks substance. It lacks the overflow of God's love and mercy. And aside, the overflow of God's mercy in Hebrew is the word shefa. It literally means a superabundance of godliness. So much that it pours over the cup. And I keep this stone in my office that has the Hebrew word shefa on it, so that I can always remember the overabundance of God's love and mercy. Done with aside. So that's what I'm offering for us to think about this Shabbat. If we're feeling a disconnection with the divine, it may be because we're not ready for the profound level of vulnerability that comes with connection, just like with love. Love with a romantic partner, vulnerability. If this is the case, then the solution is the path of humility. We're all a lot less than we think we are. We're all a lot less than we think when we think of all space and time. We're all less than what we think when we contemplate the vastness of unity of God. I'm always happy to hear kids crying. Next generation in effect, folks. When we abandon the false perception of our individuality and the greatness that comes with it, we realize that in the scope of the universe, we're not much at all. And then the vulnerability of connection is no longer something that we need to run away from. Connection to the divine becomes the best kind of comfort, the kind of comfort that always challenges us to do better, the kind of comfort that allows us to grow, the kind of comfort that inspires us to improve ourselves and the world. And that's a real relationship. That's a relationship of love. Shabbat Shalom.